Leading a startup team, whether you're delivering a sugar rush, stocking coffee, or getting a regular delivery of snacks, Office Depot has solutions that fit every startup culture, from getting those first business cards and stationery to ordering fleece pullovers with your new logo. To learn how Office Depot and the California Technology Council have partnered to bring you savings on all of these startup essentials and more, go to californiatechnology.org/member benefits. I'm Daniel Levine, and this is the Bio Report. The convergence of technology and life sciences, changing consumer behavior, and increasing pricing pressures on drug and device makers are forcing these companies to rethink business models and how they derive value from their products, according to a new EY Progressions 2018 report. The report argues that life sciences companies will no longer be able to rely exclusively on product-centric innovations, which face diminishing returns as health systems wrestle with cost constraints. We spoke to Pamela Spence, EY Global Life Sciences industry leader, about the report, what a growing trend in collaborations between technology and healthcare companies may say about where the industry is heading, and why the future of life sciences companies may be as health technology companies. Pamela, thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure, Danny. Thank you for having me.
We're going to talk about how technology is changing the life sciences industry, the convergence of technology and life sciences, and how companies will need to change business models if they're going to capture value in what they do. Let's start with definitions. For the purposes of your report, when you speak of life sciences company, what do you include in that?
Sure. Life sciences companies, I think, range from biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, and medical devices. Historically, they have been the producers of products, devices, or medicines, and some companies more recently have started to expand into services.
You talk about life science companies becoming health technology companies in the future. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think that's a very strong trend, and we're very excited to see it. I spent most of my life in pharmaceuticals or high-end tech. I think that the whole essence of our report really focuses around using technology advancement to unlock the power of data, the power that data has to really drive innovation towards a much more outcomes-driven, a value-based industry with high degrees of personalization. And I do think that to really unleash the power of data, that our life sciences companies, as we know them today, really do need to partner, acquire skills much more traditionally suited to some of the technology companies with all those very capable data scientists. And we see many agile partnerships underway at the moment. Indeed, in our report, we talk about, we analyze a number of mergers, alliances, and partnerships that have been done in recent years. And it's very clear to see that there's a blurring of skill sets, which I find personally really inspiring, between technology companies and life sciences companies. And I think the conundrum I am sort of thinking about is how far will that go? How far will life sciences companies become technology companies? And how far will technology companies become health companies? But irrespective of where each company might have started from, health technology, combining health skills, be it payer, provider, or life sciences companies, with the technology skills to really sort and manage and analyze in intelligent ways data, as I say, to deliver those outcomes with higher degrees of precision, I think we'll see many more of. So health technology, I think, becomes even more important as we go forward.
There are several developments that are driving these changes, some within the industry, some outside of the industry. I thought we could just run through a few of those. From a technology point of view, what are the technology drivers of this?
I think some of the emergence of artificial intelligence is hugely exciting, specifically for life sciences companies. R&D and the productivity challenges that so many companies face in terms of R&D, actually using AI to really produce, analyze, manage, design synthetic pathways. I think that's a huge area. I think we have, some companies going into services. At the services end, you see the algorithms to really understand behaviors now and to really help patients, consumers, and I use that phrase interchangeably, patients and consumers, adhere to their care, prescribe their medicines. So I think that, again, the algorithms that intelligent analytics, computational power becomes even more powerful to sort through a whole chunk of data. I think depending on where you play in the life sciences space, some of the device companies now, the large-scale training of using virtual technologies to use and implement devices, I think is really exciting. I think 3D printing, of course, you can now print some devices, especially if they go inside the body, very specifically to individuals. So, and I think that's all hugely exciting. I think an area that I see as new and emerging is some of this smart stuff, some nanotechnology that actually can measure your body's response to some of the medicines that you take. So all of these technologies are being invented and being adopted and used at a pace, and they are only increasing in both their sophistication and their application.
At the other end, one of the drivers of this is the emergence of what you call the super consumer. What do you mean by that term, super consumer?
Yeah, sure. I mean, history tells us, or precedent tells us, that large scale change occurs when it's consumer driven. And I'm a firm believer that industry can create an infrastructure and an environment for change, but it's the end user who will drive that change. And we see that in so many industries in the past, and so many large scale changes in the past. So I do believe, and the report describes, as access to information becomes much more frequent, we as patients and consumers feel much more informed, engaged, and ultimately empowered to start to want to make some choices for ourselves, to become more demanding, to take more of an interest, because we suddenly have access to this data. The democratization and access to data, I'm hugely excited about as a consumer myself. But that, I think, will really start to drive en masse large-scale change. That's what I mean by super consumers. And it's not only just the end patient, there's consumers, be they payers, consumers, be they providers. So all of this demand, I think, will start to change the way the whole industry operates.
One of the peculiarities of the healthcare arena is that consumers are often not the payers. How does this disconnect between who consumes the goods and services and who pays for it affects how quickly or how thoroughly we'll see the new world you describe as life sciences 4.0?
I think that's very interesting, Danny. I think that we will see a confluence of who pays and who actually is driving the purse strings. I think consumers will become, patients become more demanding in terms of what their payer gives them. Again, access to information will actually help them and or help companies actually choose one payer over another. So I think that's going to be a very interesting dynamic. I think copay, of course, is going to increase in some segments of the population. And of course, globally, I think we'll have private paying systems become much more commonplace. But irrespective of the patient or the consumer, the payers themselves, with greater access to information, I think will feel more empowered and enabled to also make different decisions. So I see this access to data analysed in intelligent ways can benefit all. And I see there's going to be much more transparency between what my payer allows me to have and what I actually want.
You say products are no longer going to be the central driver of value. If not products, what will drive value in the future for life sciences companies?
I think products and their application will drive value. What we say in the report is products alone won't necessarily be enough, but it depends what business model the organisation decides to go down. And there is an encouragement in the report that looks at 4 different types of business model. One we call breakthrough innovator, which looks at where companies will just focus on R&D for new molecular entities or devices. We suspect that will be very product focused, less services focused, but that product will come with recommendations for high degrees of personalization and thus efficacy in either cadres of patient populations or individual patients themselves. Other company business models we describe as disease managers, which is much more heavily dependent on services with a bit of product. Then you have the efficient producers, where that is very focused on a particular manufacturer's product. I think you have to breed brand loyalty, and how do you do that with services? And then the 4th business model that we describe in our report is what we are describing as a lifestyle manager. That, I think, will be potentially more attractive to new entrants into the industry rather than the life sciences companies themselves. And I delineate between disease manager and lifestyle manager. Disease manager is in a disease state, and lifestyle manager in a pre-disease or identifiable disease state. So I think that I'm saying products themselves will not necessarily be enough. I would also challenge, as we go forward in the future, that data, as in how you use the product, will actually become equally valuable, because one can deliver with that data a very high degree of accuracy. Well, I hope one will be able to deliver with a high degree of accuracy a very efficient outcome. So that's certainly not the case today. Not all medicines and care pathways work in any individual person. With more data analysed in intelligent ways, I think we'll be able to get there.
How do you see notions of innovation and value changing in this new world with regard to what drug and device makers do?
Sure, I think with each of the business models that I described, I think companies need to really understand what new capabilities might they employ to really get that high degree of personalization, that degree of data literacy, and that degree of customer engagement that will really help them enhance their value. But all of that, though, needs to be really personalized to the end user. And we describe different types of capabilities for the breakthrough innovator, the disease manager, the efficient producer, and the lifestyle manager. But all of them require capabilities in terms of customer engagement, personalization, and data literacy. They're just different. But those 3 capabilities, I think, will become, well, I'm certain, I believe, will become even more important as we go forward. And they are not currently as good as they could be today, with the expectation of technology advancing at the pace in which it's going. And then I would also link back to, and that is why I think we see so many companies looking to become health technology companies, because of course health technology companies will be able to really deliver better against customer engagement, personalization, and have a higher degrees of data literacy.
In the new world you describe, it seems like these companies are going to have to rely more heavily on collaborations and collaborations that create value differently than before. What's that going to do to a drug company's willingness to invest in long-term, high-cost drug development? And how will they be able to recoup their investment? Are they just going to be looking at sharing a smaller piece of a pie?
Well, I think that we're going to see much more agile partnerships. I think we're going to see, partnerships with non-traditional entrants to deliver skills that the life sciences company hasn't got themselves. And I think that there needs to be a recognition that you're not going to own all the value, if indeed you want to enhance your productivity quotient. So I think we're going to see more of that. But actually, this whole concept of the sharing economy and the concept of, when I talk about connecting, combining, and sharing data, those are the three elements to really unlock the power that data really can give us. The connecting bit, you connect different data silos in your own organization with others. You can combine, obviously, analyze in intelligent ways, but how do you share back some of that value with somebody else for the greater good? I think that we will see companies starting to really think much more about value creation, and for not necessarily themselves but for others, because that in turn will feed back value to them. And I do see a trend of how companies are thinking about measuring value in the longer term rather than the shorter term. But of course, that brings challenges to one's own capital investor base, because that has traditionally been driven, managed, measured on shorter term returns. So I think that we will see different partnerships and value being shared, but I think there's a different mindset that needs to be undertaken. I do think, though, especially with the advances in artificial intelligence, or augmented intelligence, and some of the really exciting innovations that we see going on in some of these AI, very specific R&D companies, one would hope that the R&D life cycle can become much shorter, and therefore the productivity can go up, and therefore the cost comes down. One of the things I've been talking to a lot with one of the CEOs of one of these AI companies is, 90% of drugs fail in clinical trials because the actual target in the body is misunderstood at the outset. So therefore, a lot of money is spent designing a molecule to interact with that target. And of course, if you don't spot the right target at the outset, then you will fail. And it's widely accepted that that's one of the principal reasons of so many drug trials don't deliver, sadly, the outcomes that they're designed to deliver. So I think AI plus partnerships in agile ways could hugely increase the success rate, and I would hope and expect increases productivity and reduces the cost. But I don't expect life sciences companies themselves to become AI experts overnight, and I would challenge whether it's efficient use of their capital to really be that. Potentially, that's where the partnerships come in, and they might partner with one organization for one particular therapy area or particular indication, and they might partner with somebody else for something else.
Are there any particular collaborations that have been formed that you think point the way forward for the industry?
I think there's so many great examples that are emerging, and certainly we cite some of them in the report. I think it would be unfair to single out any particular organisation or entity, but I'm hugely encouraged by the number and volume of, or size and volume of these partnerships that I see. But I do believe one of the biggest hurdles for these tech life sciences partnerships is one of culture. Traditionally, life sciences companies have made decisions relatively slowly, quite cautiously, and have been very understandably fearful of regulation. Whereas tech companies typically, and of course I'm generalizing, make decisions very fast, are less cautious, have a fail-fast mentality at a different extreme than other industries, and of course they haven't needed to be as fearful of regulation in the past. So, one sees these two very different cultures needing to come together, though, to really drive the opportunity that we talk about in our report. And I think the cultural challenges are going to be equally as challenging as the commercial challenges, the value exchange and who gets rewarded for what that we've just talked about. And ultimately, I think that's something that my encouragement would be that life sciences executives really do start thinking through.
What's at risk for companies that resist this change?
Well, we do an analysis of the pace of change of the Fortune 500, and indeed we show some statistics in the report that it's well understood that the Fortune 500 is changing, and it's changing with people coming in, adopting technology, and delivering value to the end user, either differentiating by a great experience, a great personalized experience. So, that's really where we drive these capabilities for success. In the future for life sciences companies has to be really thinking through, how are you differentiating an experience and how are you really delivering high degrees of personalization. Those two aspects are typical characteristics of companies that are displacing others in the Fortune 500. And of course, depending on whether you look at an exponential change or whether you look at a linear change, we would argue that in the next 5 years, up to half to 2/3 of the Fortune 500 companies could potentially change.
Pamela Spence, Global Life Sciences Leader for EY. Pamela, thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure. Thanks very much, Danny.
Thanks for listening. The Bio Report is a production of the Levine Media Group. To automatically download this podcast each week, subscribe to our RSS feed or through iTunes or other podcast manager. To join our mailing list, go to levinemediagroup.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to drop us a line or are interested in sponsoring this podcast, send an email to danny@levinemediagroup.com. Special thanks to Jonah Levine, who composed our theme music, and the Jonah Levine Collective, which performs it.